Government Secrets, episode 63. Pew, 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 pew.
And now it's time for This Week in History.
This week in Government Secrets History, our new segment. This is only the second episode we've done. We want to say pick something either from the day we recorded or at least around the week of the recording that happened. That was really awful. So what?
That was really fucking horrifying. So for this week,
what?
This Week in History in November 1969, journalist Seymour Hersh revealed the My Lai massacre.
Oh.
Graham's already done. He just turned off his camera.
By the way, that was like, I was born in August of 65. So that's literally like
this is 69.
69, right. I was born in 69. I don't know why I said 65. Yeah, I was
either you don't. I think this is a Hollywood thing. I don't know. This is either you don't know your own.
This isn't me lying about my age.
You don't know your own birthday, or
I actually was born in 1969. That's correct.
Okay.
So we landed on the moon while my mom was pregnant with me, and then the My Lai massacre happened. Well, first there was the right after I was born, there was the Manson family murders happen. So
they saw the star signs that you'd been born, and they said, it's go time.
So like when I was doing a comedy show and there's a table in the front and they're all like in their early 20s and they're all being the MC had been talking to them and they're like, we're polyamorous. And they're all like into that. Okay, cool. But I'm like, that's how the Manson cult started. They're all living up in the Hollywood Hills, free love. No constraints.
I don't know if it was the free love that drove them to the killing.
I'm just saying that's where it started, Lee. Everyone's
They were also known to walk around shirtless, which I feel like is something you do often. So,
and I'm so close to starting a cult. You have no idea. Just everyone has vegan smoothies and has to wear Batman insignias on them.
Listen, first the nips come out and then it's all downhill and then someone's massacred and pig is written on the wall in blood. That's how it always ends.
First the nips come out. That's how the nipples. The nipples are the gateway to madness. I mean, we should really talk about that.
Absolutely. Absolutely they are.
Especially male nipples. They serve no purpose. Like, of course it drives you insane.
Right. Yeah. It's
you're looking at these nipples going, what do they do?
If you can't, I always say, if you can't feed off something, then fucking put it away. Okay. It's one of my mottos. It's one of my life mottos. I have the poster for that. It's got a little cat on it.
These nipples do nothing. Let's napalm a village. This is ridiculous. This makes no sense.
I mean, it causes. The problem is you take the shirt off, you look down at the nipples. It causes existential angst. Those nipples do nothing. Why am I here? And then you want to blow something up to justify your existence.
Or let's just have an orgy that turns into a murder party. Like, whatever. Like, at this point, there's no rules if nipples have no purpose.
That being said,
like,
I feel like we should get back to the My Lai massacre.
If somebody, before we get to that real quick, if somebody wants to, who watches the show on a regular basis, put a compilation of all of the insane, bizarre segues we have to do when we go from. I would love, like, there's no way to segue from one of our insane riffs into then a factual, horrifying thing. There's no way to do it.
Watch right now as Graham tries to get the show back on track from discussing which type of almond milk he likes into this horrible cannibalistic moment in the 1970s.
Okay. Let us go back into My Lai massacre, buddy. We had our fun. Now it's back to the horrors of the world.
Everybody watch now as Graham does his best to get us from surfing onto that time that JFK's head exploded.
Watch the joy and smile out of Graham's face just slowly melt away like a vegan smoothie left out in the sun. Like
maybe to bring you some more happiness, we need to start a new segment called "Not a Government Secret" every week.
We just
something completely unrelated to government secrets.
Like maybe we should have a happy segment or something that's just like show a video of like a kitten falling in a bowl of milk or something. That's just
with the Benny Hill music playing behind it. That'd be the palate cleanser. So, for those who don't know, the My Lai massacre was the mass murder of unarmed South Vietnamese civilians by U.S. troops in South Vietnam on March 16th, 1968, during the Vietnam War. It is interesting that this massacre kind of resonated more with people as so horrific because it wasn't done with bombs. It's like bombing lets us be so distant from it that it's like, you didn't even see what was going on down there on the ground. But this was soldiers going into this village, killing, raping, maiming men, women, children, infants. 26 soldiers were charged with criminal offenses. But the only one convicted was Lieutenant William Calley Jr., a platoon leader in C Company. He was found guilty of killing 22 villagers. He was originally given a life sentence, but then ultimately served 3.5 years under house arrest. That's what you get for killing 22 unarmed people, men, women, and children. The incident, once Seymour Hersh revealed it, on this week in 1969. The incident prompted global outrage, which became public knowledge, and it contributed to the domestic opposition that caused the end of the Vietnam War, the U.S. pullout of Vietnam, because both the scope of the killing that went on and the cover-up attempts.
Yeah, and so basically when this came forward, it was kind of there was already a strong anti-war sentiment in America, and it just sort of added to it.
Yeah, totally added to it. And it was kind of, it was so big and so horrific that even our mainstream media that normally runs interference for that kind of thing couldn't cover it up, but so long. So.
And this is the other thing too, is as we've discussed on this show in various forms, but the Vietnam War was where they learned, we need to control the media. So the next time we have wars, we need to be able to control the message. And that's what really saw in the first Gulf War in 91 and the subsequent Iraq and Afghan wars that we've had for the last 20 years. That's why with this kind of stuff was happening. There was guys, there was a story that broke out several years ago of guys, collecting human parts as trophies in Afghanistan and stuff like that. But it really never, because war is the most dehumanizing thing. And we have always, soldiers on all sides have always done awful things. American soldiers did awful things in World War II, but that never made it to the newsreels or the John Wayne movies or anything like that. So that's why they've really made an effort to control the message, because they don't want to see, because that's the other thing too, like the bombing, like you say, you're desensitized from it, but you can go, they made a mistake, or the bombs drifted, or they got bad intelligence. They can always play the accident card on a bomb. But guys taking guns and delivering.
Speaking of that, did you see the Pentagon investigated that bomb at the end of the occupation where they killed women and children and everything? And the Pentagon investigated themselves and decided nothing was done wrong. And you're like, you realize that's worse. If that's you doing it right.
Yeah. We didn't do anything wrong. You killed innocent civilians. Yep. Perfect. Thumbs up.
We looked into it. We looked into our behavior and it was right on.
It was right on. I looked into my own behavior and I think it was pretty good at that time.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's this week in Government Secrets.
Yes, it is. And now we move on to, let's do, since I've got more massacres in my story, let's go to your story.
All right. Mine is just fun-loving Government secrets. First segment after the new This Week in the blah, blah, blah segment. Beep, beep.
which Graham sounds enthusiastic about. After the blah, blah, blah bullshit that Lee just said.
This is why I really try to talk about smoothies every week, because I know what's coming. It's just going to be bad news and horror. Why do you think I talked about my leaf getting hit for 7 episodes in a row? It's just something to take my mind off of.
Thanks for joining us every week as Graham tries to take the edge off everything Lee says.
Here, we're going to start the show off with Graham's in denial about how awful the world is and knows Lee's going to really break his soul. So speaking of a good old government secret, we're all been told, especially if you grew up in Texas, that the Alamo, Texas independence was fighting against Mexico, right? That's what it was.
Yes, and then it made a rental car company.
Remember affordable rental car rates. And it's always told in this last stand. Well, here's the truth of it. And this does not surprise me at all. The Alamo was really, in fact, because Mexico had abolished slavery in 1829, causing panic among Texas slaveholders, overwhelmingly immigrants from the South of the United States. They, in turn, sent Stephen Austin to Mexico City to complain. Austin was able to wrest from the Mexican authorities an exemption for the department.
Wait, the guy's name was Steve Austin, like Stone Cold?
Yeah. And so the coolest, most progressive city in Texas is named after a slave owner. Keep it weird, Steve Austin. So Texas was technically a department of the state of Coahuila y Tejas that would allow the vile institution to continue, but it was an exemption reluctantly given, mainly because the authorities wanted to avoid rebellion in Texas when they already had problems in Yucatan and Guatemala. All of the leaders of Mexico, in itself only an independent country since 1821, were personally opposed to slavery, in part because of the influence of emissaries from the freed slave Republic of Haiti. The exemption was, in their minds, a temporary measure, and Texas slaveholders knew that. And this is to be clear about the.
So at the time, Texas was part of Mexico. And,
yes.
And then they got nervous that they were about to abolish slavery.
Yes. And right before the Alamo, just to make it clear, other Texans were making clear goals of the sacrifice of a constitutional convention for the new republic they hoped to create. In Section 9 of the general provisions of the Constitution of the Republic of Texas, it stated how the new republic would resolve their greatest problem under Mexican rule. Quote, all persons of color who were slaves for life previous to their immigration to Texas and who are now held in bondage shall remain in the like state of servitude. Congress shall pass no laws to prohibit immigrants from bringing their slaves into the republic with them.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
I just showed up and I got 3 in this briefcase. And so I was worried you might have an issue with that, but it sounds like you're going to be fine with it.
Nah, you bring your slaves into Texas is what happened. They said you could bring your slaves into Texas. Weird that the state that said we don't want to end slavery and you can bring your slaves to Texas just recently said, oh, we're going to tell a woman what they can do with their body.
Yeah,
but
I'd say the politics is about the same.
Yeah,
as it was then.
Our body's our choice. You can't mandate me to get a vaccine, but I'll tell a woman what she can do with her right. And also, by the way, my great-grandfather owned slaves because Texas is Texas. And Congress shall pass no law to prohibit immigrants from bringing their own slaves into the republic with them and holding them by the same tenure by which such slaves were held in the United States, nor shall Congress have power to emancipate slaves. So that's this Texas stands alone. We do. So even when you go there today, like we do things different in Texas. Yeah, you like owning slaves, So,
can you imagine writing into the government, hey, let's put something in here permanently that says the government could not in the future possibly release slaves from servitude. Let's let every congressional person know coming into the office that, listen, releasing slaves is not on the table.
Yeah, it's not on the table. Can't even do it. And if Congress passes a law saying you can, we're going to say no. Because even in 1829, the movement, and I'm blanking on the name, but the emancipation movement, I believe, was what it was called. There's already people in the 1820s saying slavery is not right in the United States, right?
Oh yeah. There was, a lot of it's been erased from history, and I can't claim to know it all. But there were abolitionists for fucking hundreds of years.
Yeah, abolitionists. That's right.
And many of them were, either run out of town in the best scenario. Some of them were killed or lynched, even if they were, white. And because there were religious people who were opposed to it on religious grounds, and their lives were made into hell.
Yep. So the Mexican armies that entered the department to put down the rebellion had explicit orders to free any slaves that they encountered. This, by the way, I don't think this placard is up at the Alamo when you go there as a tourist, by the way. And so they did. The Mexican army was there to free slaves. The only person
goddamn them showing up and forcing us to free slaves, those motherfuckers. They're fucking mongrels. They're showing up and forcing their freed slaves on us.
So this is the Texas's whole identity. Remember the Alamo is about defending the right to own another human being. That's Texas's whole fucking identity. That's whole state. And I doubt that this is,
as I recall growing up in Richmond, Virginia, it was most of our identity there too.
Right. Yeah. It's just unbelievable. Once the rebels succeeded in breaking Texas away from Mexico and establishing an independent republic, slavery took off as an institution. Between 1836,
you mean it got even more popular?
Yes, when they won at the Alamo, we did it. Whatever.
Well, that means that God's on their side.
Sure, right. More capitalist assholes. Whatever. Between 1836 and 1940, the slave population doubled. It doubled again by 1945, and it doubled still again by 1850 after annexation by the United States.
1845. You said 1945, which sounds kind of rough.
Yeah, does it matter? I mean,
yeah, but so doubled by 1845. Yeah,
doubled by 1845, and
crazy.
Doubled again by 1850. After annexation by the United States, on the eve of the Civil War, which Texas would enter as part of the Confederacy, there were 182,566 slaves, nearly 1/3 of the state's population. So at the time of the Civil War in 1863, wow, 1/3 of the population of the state of Texas was slaves.
That's like ancient Rome, where 1/3 of the population was slaves. It's good to see we progress over the years.
Yeah. And as more slaves came into the Republic of Texas, more escaped to Mexico. Matamoros.
It does show that this whole mentality of like, I'm going to go out west where there's fewer government people watching me and I can have my freedom to enslave others. I can be out somewhere where nobody's going to be looking into my business, like whether I own children.
And make no mistake, this whole Texas wants to secede and the South is going to break away. If the South were to break away from the United States today in 2021, they absolutely would have some type of slavery. They absolutely would have Jim Crow laws. There's no two ways about it. There's no two ways about it. If you live in these states and you're offended by what I'm saying, kindly go fuck yourself. Your Alamo's bullshit. Watch another show.
Well said. Well, and the truth is, if you talk to if you talk to any people that are rational in these states, it's like they don't deny what you're saying. Like,
No,
they
don't.
you know, if you go talk to your average person in Austin, they probably are like, yeah, it kind of sucks. We're surrounded by Texas.
It's like Austin is like West Berlin.
Dude, and when I do shows in like Houston or you know, Dallas or something, it's like people that are surrounded by like alien spaceships that are bearing down on them. They're like, help us. Like,
yeah, I know.
They're amazed to see someone like left wing has come to their city, and they're like, what is happening?
I'm telling you, one of the best shows Ron Placone and I ever did, we've done a lot of great shows all over the country and Australia, was in San Antonio, Texas.
I'll be the judge of that. No,
it was in San Antonio.
Your shows are excellent.
Thank you. And it wasn't even the most crowded show. We had great shows in Houston, great shows in Dallas, great shows in Austin, but the San Antonio show was probably our least attended show of all the shows in Texas. But the people were in San Antonio were just like, holy shit. And it was like, they hung out with us after the show. They like bought up all of our merch. They were like, thank you. Thank you. It was amazing. We were just like, holy shit, that was unbelievable.
Yeah. It's gotta be incredibly lonely to be,
oh God,
to be actually left wing. I don't mean Biden liberal. I support the man who's locked up more black people than anyone in the history of America. I don't mean that kind of left, but real left wing, and to be in fucking San Antonio or something, it's got to be so lonesome.
Yeah, it was like they were like, it felt like we were rescuing people. Like,
you just smuggle them in the back of your van. You're like, you're coming back with us.
You can make it to the border. Speaking of people escaping, most of the slaves then escaped to Mexico. Matamoros in the 1840s had a large and flourishing colony of ex-slaves from Texas and the United States. Though exact numbers do not exist, as many slaves may have escaped to Mexico as escaped through the more famous Underground Railway to Canada. The Mexican government, for its part, encouraged the slave runaways, often with offers of land as well as freedom. The defenders of the Alamo, as brave as they may have been, were martyrs to the cause of the freedom of slaveholders, with the Texas War of Independence having been the first of the 19th century revolts, with the American Civil War the second. Mm-hmm. So don't mess with Texas.
So you're saying not the best rental car company? Is that what you're...
No, I go Hertz is a lot better. I'm a Hertz guy. I get upgrades. They've started to have a whole fleet of electric cars now.
And then there was the dollar massacre, dollar rent-a-car massacre that happened in Oklahoma. I don't know why rental car companies are named so horribly, but
they're all named after massacres. Yeah, so that's the truth about Texas, everybody. There's a government secret you might not have known.
And by the way, if you're listening to the podcast and you'd like to watch the live stream, we put it up on it's live on Graham's pages, and then I add it later to my pages as well. So you could YouTube Government Secrets. I'm sure you'll find it, or go to our Rockfin pages.
Yes, we both have it on Rockfin. And of course, if you're listening to this, watching it later, not watching it live, hit the like button, give it a positive review. If you're listening on iTunes, share it out. All those things help. And support what we're doing at liberapay.com /government secrets. It's scrolling below if you're watching the video, but if you're listening, it's liberapay.com /government secrets. And you can support what we're doing. And we very much appreciate those of you that are.
And so it seems that yet again, the independence of Texas, as with many things we've covered on this show, seems to have some sort of racial core. You know, I don't want to say that, you know, race might be critical to what's going on in the country and has gone on in the country in the past. I would never say that, but let's just say important.
Yeah, it's almost like this revelation, this secret about Texas reveals that there is way more systemic racism in America than we once thought. America isn't this freedom-loving place where the evil Mexican government wanted to take away Texans' freedoms. No, they wanted to take away their right to enslave human beings and literally ruin their lives and families and profit off of cheap labor.
So
let's how about them Cowboys? Let's go.
Actually, the Cowboys team is based on a racist slave owner who wanted to start a football team.
I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. Tex Schramm actually was the first. His grandfather was a slave owner who said, "Let them play football. Then they'll be free." Anyway, all right, let's go. Government secrets segment number 2, Lee Camp's segment. This one will be more horrifying than Graham's. Beep, beep.
This is segment 2B because we had the this week in history.
All right,
but all right, let's get into a fan favorite. I feel like we've gotten this. We've gotten this request from many fans in the past. The School of the Americas. Graham's very excited. For those of you watching at home or listening at home, Graham is thrilled.
I watched their basketball team during March Madness.
His nips just came out, for those of you watching at home.
Here comes a cult.
So, let's see here. So I'm getting much of this information from The Guardian before they were captured by corporate interests.
I know there's always like The Guardian, The Intercept, and Democracy Now. There's always this like pre-invasion date of like, man,
it was like before they became threatening enough that they needed to be captured. You can have good information. This is The Guardian from 2010. And then I'm getting some other information from WikiLeaks because, as we say, WikiLeaks is kind of like the liberal view of world history. But if it's on WikiLeaks, then you know even the liberals and the Republicans have acknowledged that this is reality.
Yes.
So when the elected president of Honduras, so this is for their articles from 2010. So when they say last year, they mean 2009. When the elected president of Honduras, Manuel Zelaya, was dragged from his bed and flown out of the country in his pajamas last year, it was no surprise to find out that this classic coup was led by a graduate of the School of the Americas, the notorious Army training school in Fort Benning, Georgia. But General Vasquez, who was simply following a well-trodden path of autocrats in Honduras, after all, two of the country's most hated past dictators, Melgar Castro and Policarpo Paz Garcia, had also attended the school. So this is just one example. That's just one example. Is this coup in Honduras that took place, which Hillary Clinton was also an important figure in, like approving and endorsing that coup. Basically taking out a left-wing leader and putting in a U.S. puppet government.
That's never happened before.
Yeah, I think it's happened a couple of times. More than 60,000 Latin American soldiers have been trained at the School of the Americas. Among them, some of the region's most notorious human rights abusers, such as Salvadorian death squad leader Roberto da Buisson. In all, 11 or 12 dictators have attended its courses from Latin America. Meaning
so
they
this
go
is
to
just
this,
basically...
They go to this school and then they fucking come out monsters. I mean, they were monsters going in, but they're monsters with tools. They go in and they're handed tools on how to be monsters.
So like, if you want to get a medical degree, you go to like Stanford or Johns Hopkins or whatever. If you want to be a dictator, you go to School of the Americas, right? If you want to just like find Find a school with a good econ program.
Yeah.
There's a handful of schools that go for that. I mean, my alma mater, University of Arizona, had good engineering programs. The film program that I was in was okay. Its dictator program hadn't really caught up, hadn't gotten up yet, but it'll hopefully. I mean, that's what I'll keep donating. I'll donate money to my school if they up their dictator program.
I took a course on old time radio that was very enjoyable. Although there was a little too much racial humor back then, but
old time radio.
But yeah, this school, you learn how to like strap a car battery to a guy's nutsack. Like that. It's a different form of academic research, I think.
Batteries and nutsacks 203 is there an entry level class?
Wait, Graham, battery is a whole other class.
Oh, okay. Is the prerequisites like you got to take auto shop and then you can go into the
yeah. I mean, honestly, like, you know how like colleges will have those little tours that I went on from my school, like where they walk you around the campus? Do they have that shit for this place? They're like, if you send your young aspiring dictator to us, then he'll get to use the fucking ear chopping booth over there. He'll get to over here. We have a place where we show you how to lock up journalists and never let them see the light of day again.
Did your son or daughter were they helpful in starting a school a coup within their high school political program? Or
if your son or daughter took his English teacher and locked her in a room and beat her to death, then this is the school for you. This is the college for you. I mean, really, they've gotten too big for their little small-time high school, and it's time to send them to us.
Yeah, because at a certain point, they got to be around other like-minded people. If they're like the only kid that was really into waterboarding in their high school, well, then they need to go to a school where everybody was into waterboarding.
God, it is, Graham, it is so lonely if you're the only kid into waterboarding in your high school. You got to find a club or something. And you really need adults to tell you, listen, it gets better. It gets better. You won't be alone forever. You'll find people who share your interests.
Yeah, like you had a kid, your son or daughter, like poisoned the opposition during the debate team finals, and then you're going to get a scholarship to School of the Americas.
Yeah, so in all, 11 dictators have attended its courses. This is in 2010, so these numbers need to be updated. I'm sure we're up to 13. I'm sure we're up to 13 dictators by now. Men such as Argentine junta leader Leopoldo Galtieri, infamously responsible for the disappeared, which a lot of people have heard of. Guatemala's Efrain Rios Montt, whose scorched earth campaign against indigenous villages was classified as a genocide by the UN-sponsored commission. So I'm sure he added that to his resume. The UN has declared me a genocide creator. That always impresses the future employers.
Oh, can I just guess who some of the other names are? Like Pinochet and like the Shah of Iran. Like who else? Will just vomit out. Idi Amin. Was he top of his class?
I think most of these are Latin American. So
okay.
So sorry, I don't think Idi Amin went here,
but we should have some sort of like dictator Final Four tournament. What I mean?
You know what? Sometimes a school will have like satellite campuses. We need some African satellite campuses.
Yeah, like somebody. I mean, like, was a former professor at School of the Americas the ones that taught Pol Pot, or like who?
Yeah.
Just like somebody that coached under Belichick is now now they have a winning team because they learned how to coach like under a really good Phil Jackson's, like Steve Kerr is now a really good coach because he played under Phil Jackson. So like somebody who learned how to be a dictator at the School of Americas then taught.
Right. So it was founded, the School of the Americas was founded in the Panama Canal Zone in 1948, which was a zone by the Panama Canal that was considered American land. That was also where John McCain was born. So he was able to be considered American.
Weird that school was started a year after the CIA was formed. Anyway.
I don't like the connections you're making, Graham. I think they're really out there and tinfoil hatty.
They are. They're very tinfoil hatty. I'm off.
Yeah, you have to CIA. Founded in the Panama Canal Zone, it was originally named the Army Caribbean School. Wow, that sounds lovely, doesn't it?
Jesus Christ.
That sounds pretty nice. They thought about naming it the Coconut Bikini School, but
they're gonna put umbrellas in the like poison drinks. Did they just like paint bikinis on like rockets that blew up free people or whatever?
Yeah. Oh. And you know, if you become a student there back then, they braid your hair and put the little shells on the end.
It's like calypso music playing while they electrocute somebody or whatever.
It was renamed the School of Americas in 1963, and a new curriculum was introduced, offering courses in counterinsurgency, military intelligence, and psychological warfare.
And hotel management. Like what?
It was like, and statistics and astrology. Could you imagine if they were also like, let's learn about the stars? There's a couple of degrees you can get that are legit out of that school, like just to get, just like marketing. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. What if there's like one guy who like got a fucking, paint degree, like he got a fucking creative writing degree out of the School of the Americas.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And he's like, no, it's not what you think. I'm good at poetry.
It was really cool. My teachers were great. There were some other wings of the campus I didn't really go by. I heard yelling and saw lasers and shit, but I had a great time.
Like I wandered into one class about cutting off people's fingers, and I didn't stay. I stayed like a week. I didn't really go to that many classes. I didn't like it.
Yeah, I took one like how to infiltrate an activist movement class, but I don't know. It wasn't at the same. It was kind of at the same time of one of my art classes. So I just like decided to drop it.
Yeah, it was at the same time as how to draw penises. And so I just went to that one. So the Cold War saw the United States back numerous bloody coups against democratically elected Latin American socialist leaders in favor of supporting training and arming military dictators. The U.S. had its hand all over the region in the 20th century. The coup of Salvador Allende and U.S. support for dictator Augusto Pinochet being one of the most infamous examples. The School of the Americas has been given the moniker School of Dictators and School of the Assassins, which is also the name of their basketball team.
The School of the America, give it up for the assassins, ladies and gentlemen.
Give it up for the fingernail pullers.
Today, the assassins take on the KGB lambs, or whatever the KGB squad would be called.
Now, unfortunately, the school ran into a problem when they were expelled from Panama in 1983 and moved to Fort Benning in 1984. And in 2001, in an attempt to improve its image, I don't know if you've heard of this before, Graham, they changed their name to the Western Hemisphere Institute for Cooperation.
You got such nerve, like, to call yourself the Institute of Cooperation? Oh my God. That's like, oh my God. I can't even think of a joke that's so offensive. Like, that's just like,
that's like the School of the Friendships.
The School of the Friendships. Yeah, I think Napoleon started that school, the School of the Friendships.
Yep. It was the Western Hemisphere School of High Fives, where it was a lot of hugging.
Jeffrey Dahmer's Culinary School. Like, what else do you have?
But so the initials of that spell WINSEC. So if you ever hear anybody mention WINSEC, they're talking about the School of the Americas. So this education reinforces a cycle of violence in the Americas. It starts with security sector forces trained by the United States to use torture, extortion, and abductions on populations of the global South. As a result, asylum seekers migrate north to escape from the violence, which is why you have so many immigrants coming towards the United States. They go to escape the violence, often after a family member has already been tortured, arrested, or kidnapped. At the US Mexico border, caravans of people are denied refuge and detained, deported, or killed, and their kids are put in cages. From either end, it's the United States terrorizing and killing innocent people. So from both sides of this, and that's what's hysterical when like the Biden administration goes, oh, this is, oh, the Haitian immigrants are coming to the border. Oh, the immigrants are at the border and, they can't come here. Or like when Kamala Harris went to Guatemala and said, don't come. And it's like, you fucking created the conditions that are making people flee Latin America.
Yes. It's astounding when it's like, we can't let them come to our, it's just like when Trump was like, they're all murderers and rape. Oh God, we again cause all of the problems in the world, the majority of them, and then go, why is this happening? And try to blame somebody else. It's literally the alcoholic that is like, man, but the judge had it in for me. No, this was your 5th DUI, you dumb drunk shithead. Like, go into rehab, you morons, and don't tell me that you have a degree from the Western campus of free drinking or whatever fucking fake college you just came from, the School of Americas. America is so, I can't call it dumb, but sadistic, and then blames everybody else. And then Americans fall for it. Like, I don't know what else.
Right. The dumb comes into play in believing what your media is telling you or what your politicians are telling you.
Right.
But in terms of most of what's done, it's done by design. And so you're right. It's sadistic. It's sociopathic. I mean, our system promotes sociopaths to the top of the system. And then they do this crazy shit. And it's predictable. Like, you can see it come. If you're going to have a system that puts only those who are willing to exploit and extract and fuck over their fellow humans at the top, then guess what the systems are ultimately going to do? The same shit.
Yeah. And then those people are rewarded. So then they were in charge. So then they keep that system in place and create these awful schools of, dictator training. And
right. Like take, for example, Joe Biden. It's like, if Joe Biden in his earlier years, when, by the way, he was supporting segregation and, pushing the crime bill that's created the largest prison state in the world. If in his earlier years, he had done the opposite and been run against the system and said he, did not want to support corporate America as they exploited your average worker and did not want to support the prison state as we locked up millions of people, he would have been chewed up and spit out by the system far earlier. He wouldn't be president right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this system has a ongoing machine that allows that only certain types of people will get to that point. If Kamala Harris had done the right thing as DA in California, she wouldn't have been picked for VP.
Right. Of course. Yeah. There's no way. I mean, when she was district attorney in San Francisco, she protected pedophile priests. When she was attorney general, she protected the banks and put black people behind bars and, got donations from Steve Mnuchin. And so that she didn't, she could have prosecuted him, had enough to prosecute him when he was the head of One West Bank, did not. He donated to her senatorial campaign. When she got elected, she then voted for him to be secretary treasurer under Trump. I mean, that's how you play the game.
And she did and wanted to imprison more people for things like smoking pot, things like having a truant child.
Yeah.
Which, a mom can't get her kid to go to school, and now you're going to lock up the mom. Let me tell you, that really solves everything.
Yeah, it's great. She's locked up more black people than, her and Biden together. And it's not a coincidence that, she
it's
dropped
nice
out.
It's nice that they have shared interests.
Yeah. I mean, she dropped out before the Iowa caucuses. That's how she couldn't.
That's how loved she is.
That's how loved she is. She dropped out before the Iowa caucuses. Joe Biden was in 4th place, and they're the two. And here's another wacky coincidence: the two biggest receivers of Wall Street and billionaire money was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and they're in the White House. That's another wacky coincidence.
Bizarre.
It's weird.
Largest donor to Biden throughout his entire career has been banks and credit card companies. So.
Yep. But he takes the Amtrak.
So back to the School of the Americas, the training manuals used at the School of the Americas were declassified in 1996. They advocated the use of, quote, fear, payment of bounties for enemy dead, beatings, false imprisonment, executions, and the use of truth serum. These are things that the school, an academic facility, is recommending. The manuals also included detailed interrogation techniques and used the term, quote, neutralization, which the Department of Defense admits is a euphemism for executing someone.
This just sounds better when you neutralize them, though, Lee. You know what I mean? Like,
they have been neutralized with what we like to call a bath bomb, which is actually just a bomb, but we put the word bath before it because it sounds better.
If these sadistic assholes could make an actual bath bomb that killed you, they probably already have, and they want to sell them in certain markets if they could.
Those manuals have now been withdrawn from use. So great of them to remove those manuals. By the adenine named WINSEC. It now offers courses in human rights, ethics, democracy, and peacekeeping.
Human rights. Oh my God.
Let it be noted for those listening at home, Graham just spit up something out of deep in his lungs.
Also, the sensitivity training classes are going to be taught by the Ku Klux Klan. And
there's also diversity training, Graham.
Which I'm sure is effective. It's like, how do we make these psychopath assassins? How do we make this pool of psychos more diverse? And it's like, let's get Kamala Harris in there. Let's get Pete Buttigieg in there. See, diversity. Let's have the first Secretary of Defense who was on the board of directors of Raytheon. Let's have him be a black man. Diversity. Yay. Gina Haspel, first woman in charge of the CIA. Yay. She she literally gets off. Probably with a vibrator watching people get tortured. She is such a sick piece of shit. But hey, diversity.
You're saying having a woman at the head of the CIA, having a black man at the head of the Pentagon, having a black woman as VP, you're saying you haven't seen a lot of change? I feel like we've seen a lot of change.
No, I don't think we have. Janet Yellen, I haven't seen much change out of the Fed. No, it's like during slavery times, nobody said, the cure for this is to let black people own slaves too. Nobody said that. They just went, slavery is wrong.
Yeah, that would have fixed a lot of problems.
Yeah, that would have done it.
So I think I read somewhere though that despite offering courses in human rights, here it is. Despite offering those new courses in peacekeeping and human rights and ethics, Graham, I'm sure you'd enjoy the ethics class. By far the most popular courses remain commando tactics, military intelligence, psychological operations, and combat training. For some odd reason, I don't really know. It may be just that they're listed earlier on the manuals, or I don't know why those are more popular.
You left out gardening and social media marketing. You left out those are also in there.
Yes, there's a great class on how to create good thumbnails for your videos. And then next door, there's one about how to fit a broomstick up a guy's anus if you're trying to get information.
There's one on how to divide and conquer indigenous land, and then there's also a good one on how to be a masseuse. You can get your masseuse license.
Despite its revamped image and promise of transparency, WinSec has been remarkably secretive. You don't say. It refused to publish the names of its military trainees and has turned down numerous freedom of information requests by campaigners. Colombia, which is our ally, who we love and who is a wonderful country that, according to our government, never does anything wrong. Colombia has sent more officers to U.S. training schools than any other Latin American country, and today has the worst human rights record in the region. In the last 2 years, the country has been rocked by the news that the army has been, this is 2010, that the army has been killing innocent civilians, then dressing the victims in guerrilla uniforms. Oh, kind of like the CIA dressing them up like vampires that we discussed last week. Prosecutors are investigating more than 1,700 alleged extrajudicial killings by the security forces. Who is responsible for the grisly murders? Well, one of the first generals sacked for involvement was Paulino Coronado Gomez, a graduate of the School of the Americas.
Polygonads?
Polygonads was the first one caught for killing 1,700 people with what they call extrajudicial, which means fucking just assassinating.
Right.
And then the last bit I have is more recent information. In September of 2019, an unredacted Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, report revealed that ICE agents have begun training at the facility. ICE has also contracted a private company for almost $1 million to build realistic models of U.S. cities in Fort Benning, Georgia, meant to simulate raids ICE agents conduct in places like Chicago and Arizona. The models are typical family-style residential homes, complete with props that include furniture, clothing, and toys. It's good, Graham, it's good to know what kind of toys you might be stepping on as you go to tear children away from their parents. It's kind of like being prepared for the defenses in Home Alone.
I'm sure the writer of Home Alone went to the School of the Americas, right? I mean, that's where...
Yeah, this article does not say how many wonderful sitcom writers have gone to that school.
In all seriousness, I'd like to know how many people, high-level people in Hollywood, went to this fucking evil place.
Yeah, I don't know if it attracts many Hollywood students.
There's no way there's not at least a couple of high-level producers, directors, showrunners, TV writers, script writers, high-level A-list people. There's no way at least some of them didn't go to School of the Americas and were placed in Hollywood to further propaganda.
Well, I forget. Maybe we mentioned this on a previous episode that one of the guys on like IMDb with the most credits is like the DOD's Hollywood fucking,
of course,
overseer.
Of
like
course.
Producer. That's the article from The Guardian. Pre-capture. This is free range rogue Guardian.
Pre-capture. This is like, oh God, this is like, yeah, pre-capture. This is before they got to him and did like, prop their eyes open and made them watch corporate media and regurgitate it and give them State Department. Like anytime they did a story that went against the State Department talking points, they got electroshock therapy. And then they're like, now what do you want to write about?
Probably by someone who trained at the School of the Americas.
Of course.
The School of the Americas fucking strapped the Guardian writers to electrodes. And now you get far more palatable articles from the Guardian for the ruling elite are far bigger fans of the Guardian now.
Of course, it's like what happened at the end of Clockwork Orange.
Ironically, considering their name, they switched from the Guardian of the people to the Guardian of the ruling elite.
We should have like just a timeline on when these like indie media sources got captured.
Oh my God, totally. Dude, and Democracy Now! This past week did a just like a straight up like State Department segment on the elections in Nicaragua. Like Nicaragua has been just hit with like just epic amounts of fucking economic sanctions, you know, U.S. kind of the light touch coup attempts, all this shit. And Democracy Now! Was like, Nicaragua had a sham election because a fucking tiny Twitter account with 1,200 followers says that it was a sham election. I mean, it's amazing. And you're like, Amy, did you take more than 30 seconds to actually research what went on in Nicaragua?
No, she did not. I mean, literally, and they're allowed to do like 20 to, I mean, like you'll watch some of their stories, they'll be like 20 to 30% like accurate criticism of the American government and the Biden administration or something like that. They'll throw, or they'll just throw it in there, just some little quick aside, despite the fact the American government is, I paid for the sanctions. They'll just throw some little aside in there so they can tell themselves we're still democracy now, when it's just like, they're just MSNBC light now. I mean, like they're not as egregious as MSNBC, but it's still like,
right. They won't do like a Rachel Maddow full hour every day on how Russiagate's still real, but they'll just have a panel of two people debating whether Russiagate's real.
Right.
And it's like, you could just like read the truth and find out it's not real. Like you don't have to have a panel with some fucking sack of shit New York Times writer who's like, yep, Steele dossier. Absolutely. Trump was urinating on everyone. And Putin had a lot of butt sex with Trump. We know that for sure, for surezies. Like, you don't have to have that guy on with the guy saying, like, I think there's more to it than this.
And the fact that people are still trying to like bring back Russiagate, it's like remember a couple years ago when they were trying to rebrand MySpace and like get us all back?
Wait, did Justin Timberlake buy Russiagate and he's trying to prop it up again?
Could be. It's like, everyone's going back to, we're all going to MySpace again, guys. No, we're not. No one's going there. No one's going there.
No, I love the MySpace fall because the people who lost the most money were ridiculously rich people. like Rupert Murdoch bought MySpace for $600 million and then sold it to Justin Timberlake for like $6 million. Like he lost like $590 million or something.
I mean, I'll say just as a platform, as a performer, I liked it and it could kind of help engage your audience, but then they ruined it.
They didn't, you know what they didn't realize is they were big around the same time as Facebook, got big a little bit earlier, but Facebook realized the real money is in selling your data. Yeah. MySpace thought the real money was in covering your page in ads. So they'd cover the pages in ads. Yeah. Everyone started hating it. And computers weren't even fast enough to handle all the ads. So you just have this page that's slowing down with all kinds of garbage on it.
Yeah.
And people just flocked away from it. And Facebook was like, no, we're playing the long game. We're going to sell your entire life and all your information like 5 years from now when you aren't paying attention.
And we're going to help divide the country and profit from it and propagandize children. So it'll be great. That's what Facebook did.
So, you know, all told, perhaps I would have preferred a page that just had a guy trying to get you to, you know, use the 1-800-COLLECT number or something. Like, maybe I would have preferred those dumb ads that you had no say in what was fucking showing up on your page.
If you really could, if you knew now, we knew, and you were just asked, what do you choose? Just dumb ads that you just got to kind of sift through, or they steal your data and do facial recognition and just ruin the country?
Some animation of a guy with a lawnmower that you don't even understand why it's there, and it's trying to get you to buy something.
Just some
Uh,
weird, a car smashes through a building and then goes, lower your interest rates on mortgages. And you're like, I don't, why? What's this have to do?
A girl in a bikini animated, like waving her arms for some reason. And it's like, oh, it turns out that's better than someone, knowing every moment of my life.
Yes. Yeah. I'd rather have the girl in the bikini going, do you need new car insurance? Like, I'd rather have that than Zuckerberg just has us all in a database somewhere that he's going to sell to the CIA or they already own or whatever. So is that the end of the segment, Lee Camp? Is that it? Is that our School of the Americas open enrollment starting tomorrow? Use coupon code government secrets for a discount at School of the Americas.
What we didn't mention is this show is sponsored by School of the Americas, now called WinSec, with free hot tub time if you enroll right now.
It's been renamed to School of Truth and Freedom and Everyone's Nice. And that's what
the soda fountain is free and unlimited, I'll just say, at the cafeteria.
In the cafeteria. And it's one of those cool Coke ones where you can do like diet, cherry, Sprite, you know what I mean? Sprite Zero, orange, vanilla Sprite. I love those. So it's that. And while you're doing that, you can figure out how to like murder a democratically elected leader and make it look like a suicide. So it's really cool. The cafeteria is really laid out.
with all these 20-year-old future dictators at the same school, do you think any of them like try and rule over each other like while they're at the school?
Yes.
And, they like find him torturing his roommate in his bedroom and they're like, dude, you gotta wait, man. Not yet. And
if they like murder one of their roommates and they cover it up and the professors find out, but they're like, wow, that's top marks. I mean, that's an A. We got to give you that. They just let these psychos loose. I mean, what are you going to do?
They're like, he killed his roommate, but he did it pretty well. All right. Let's just say none of us have found the body. All right.
It looked like a suicide. So, I mean, give the kid extra credit points for that. Like,
you're free to kill your roommate, but it better look damn much like a suicide.
He got everyone on the dorm to rise up against his roommate and they threw him out of there. And now he's got his own room to himself. So it's quite genius.
Listen, that can't be frowned upon. All right.
Like,
we're raising all-stars here. And I think we need to congratulate them on a job well done when they do it,
Oh, I would be afraid to be a professor at that school because I'd just be in a room full of psychos who were just figuring out a way to like grab my pension or something.
Do psychos see other psychos, or is it kind of like a fish doesn't see that he lives in water? Because it's possible that the psycho professors might be looking at the psycho students and going, this is all just normal, right? I mean, who hasn't killed a couple people?
Right. And the professors are just figuring out, how do I get these students to fucking murder each other and give me their money or something like that? Like they're all just out trying to out psycho each other.
I'm sure I don't know if it's an all boys school, but I'm sure there's no sexual harassment there at all.
No.
I imagine people treat it pretty well, I bet.
It's not like every semester is like Lord of the Flies. It's not like that at all.
I mean, they do expect you to have blood smeared on your face in a war paint situation, but
yeah,
outside of that, it's not like Lord of the Flies.
It's not. Yeah, and there's just this thing they call a conch, and you got to murder for it. But whatever. I mean, like, don't get into a whole thing. And again, free sodas. So use Government Secrets coupon code when you sign up for WITSEC or whatever the fuck. I think it's our show, buddy.
That's it, man.
So fun. Where can people follow all your Lee Campertudes?
radindiemedia.com is the new project I've started. It's got all your left-wing media there. You should check it out every day, radindiemedia.com. You can also sign up for the email there if you scroll down, which will give you new updates in your email box every day. And there's a new Redacted tonight where I feel like we should do a government secret segment on this, but where on Redacted tonight, I go over the actual physical documentary evidence that big oil and the U.S. government has known about man-made climate change since 1959 is when they began realizing that we were going to heat up the planet. And first they did nothing about it. Then they actively found ways to lie about it. So.
Wow. I thought it went back. I thought it was 77 when they did that first study, but no, it goes back to 59.
Yeah. 59 was when they first had people at the American Petroleum Institute, scientists at the American Petroleum Institute conferences, discussing, like saying in their speeches that emissions were going to heat up the planet.
Well, that's great.
Well, you know, we just had your moments, your regular moment of silence, but we waited till the end, so that's good.
All right, cool. Well, check that out, everybody, and know that they've been knowledgeably evil even longer. So that's exciting. And of course, if you haven't been, go to straightarrownews.com. I'm a new video contributor. There's these video opinion pieces on there. So I have one that's out there now, and another one's going to be dropping soon.
Congrats, man.
Very cool. I'm also going to be teaching film at the School of the Americas. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Check that out. Ron Placone and I have a live show in Los Angeles, November 27th. That's a Saturday after Thanksgiving. So go to grahamelwood.com for the tour dates and sign up for my newsletter, subscribe to my YouTube channel, do all those things, all those clicks and likes, and also sign up at rockfin.com because that supports Lee and I and everybody else that's on that platform. It's blockchain, it's cryptocurrency, and they don't censor us. So check that out, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening to Government Secrets, episode 63. Put it in the books. Beep, beep. Wow, wow, wow. Hey, everybody. Thanks for watching. We are still in our 9th month of demonetization from YouTube. So support what we're doing at patreon.com/GrahamElwood or rockfin.com/GrahamElwood, which is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. It's free to sign up, and there's a premium level at $10 a month. And for that, you get everybody on the platform's premium content. Myself, Lee Camp, Ron Placone, Jimmy Dore, Whitney Webb, Kim Iverson, Abby Martin, and many, many others. You can also support what we're doing at Venmo at Graham-Elwood and go to grahamelwood.com. We have a PayPal button and a PO box. I also have crypto wallets, which are all in the show notes. Thanks for supporting what we do.